Fred, it's all yours.
So first I want to thank you for coming. This is the one day of every year when more Rotarians have to work. They have a ill spouse at home. They have got called away on business the day the governor comes to speak. So you actually showed up to give me an audience, and you actually know what I'm like as a speaker. You still showed up, so I really am pleased. So what is this governor routine all about? I'm the only representative of Rotary International in the district. Rotary International thinks they're my boss, and I am their ambassador to you. You elected me, so I view myself as your ambassador to Rotary International. The district is 72 clubs, 65 Interact clubs, and 12 Rotaract clubs. 3,500 Rotarians, 4,000 Interactors, somewhere between 700 and 800 Rotaractors. And if you add up the other youth groups, the scholarships, and the rest, the total number of youth involved with the Rotary programs is more than 6,000, more than twice the number we have of Rotarians. So it's a big group the governor has to be concerned with. The president of Rotary International every year, and this year it's a fine gentleman from Chattanooga, Tennessee, named John Germ. We only get a president about once every 5 years now. The president chooses a jacket, the governor's jacket. The governor must buy the jacket, it's required. And they have to wear the jacket at each meeting, and they wear it with a tie selected by the RI president that is truly notable, memorable, blends, and all those other kinds of things. And so here's the official uniform. There's only one problem in the district. We only have one club in the district where at least 20% of the men wear coats and ties to Rotary meetings. Mostly it's the change in dress code. So I'm going to strip tease, if you don't mind, and shift to the governor's shirt. She tries to make me look good. It's pretty hard in the nature of what I am. So this is tie-dye. I never had the privilege of owning a tie-dye shirt in the 60s and 70s. I'm making up for lost time, if you will. But why is it tie-dye? The district conference this year is March 24th and 26th. We're back at the Cal campus, which really is the key to how this club got started. Conference Hotel is the Shattuck Hotel. Believe it or not, gave us the lowest rates of any hotel in the city, but it's still pricey. A lot of other places you can stay. It's a new conference for several ways. This district shirt this year says it's the district centennial. It also says we're Cliff's kids. Who's Cliff? Our district's greatest gift to Rotary International. Cliff has spoken to more Rotary clubs than Paul Harris did. He was the chair of the committee that said it's time to admit women. He was the chair of the committee that said we can take on polio and we can win. We'll eliminate that disease. He's a treasure. He's the closer at the district conference, a worldwide, internationally recognized. They have statues of him in other countries. Second major speaker is the guy who, after Cliff and a guy named Rick King, was the best speaker in English language in the Rotary Circuit, Brad Howard. He was a young guy then. He's now risen. He's a zone director. He sits on the Rotary International Board of Directors. Many of you heard Brad. He's fabulous. Third major speaker is Rita Marino, who you all know well. But, you know, one of only two entertainers that have swept every major award in the entertainment field. The Oscar, the Emmy, the Grammy, you name it, and last year had Kennedy Center's honors. And the fourth was one recommended by Rotaract. The fellow who actually stole the show at the International Assembly in San Diego in January, just where they bring the governors from all over the world. The guy who followed him in speaking was the guy who later taught the breakout in public speaking to the governors. And he was so mad. That young kid stole every trick I ever know about public speaking. Well, we could have told him that. It was Minnie Chang. Minnie Chang's former Interact president. He was the Rotaract governor of this district. And he's sort of one of the 2 or 3 best-known Rotaractors, and now a Rotarian while being a Rotaractor, that we have on the world stage. So we're bringing him because this is the first conference anywhere in the U.S. that has tried to integrate Interact and Rotaract into a conference. So it's a major thing we're trying. This club has been generous. This is the one club that can pull this off. So I want to say a little bit about the following. This club, how it meshes with the district, and why you should be proud of the 72 clubs and all those youth groups I talked about. The second major theme of the district, which is our youth service. Then I want to say something about some other themes the district has, and I want to end with some of the new research on why people come and why they stay in Rotary, and do a few reflections on it. So this club, I was persuaded at paid suggestion, don't change your speech. So I'm going to say a few things about the club. I'm going to hide a lot of the other examples of what this club does in the regular speech. You may raise your hand if you think you recognize a club project when I talk about it. Because I can't use the word Berkeley as I go around to those other 69 clubs. I can't single you out. But you have led time and again this district in what you did. But just think about this area locally. Where do you go in Berkeley that you don't find this club's worked in the past? We've worked in every school. We created Shorebird Park. We created 3 different, if you will, park sites that are within Tilden Park. You created the playground for Boss. You helped clear up so many homes, but you know, our money was a major factor in rebuilding the YMCA. And we all painted and worked on that youth center so it's available to all our youth kids. We did the same thing for the library. It goes on, and the history is even broader. Because as you learned this year, this club led the creation of the East Bay Regional Parks District, organizing Rotary clubs and women's clubs. I didn't believe it when the guy told us that, the historian of the district. So I started checking out their histories, and yeah, we actually did do that way back in the early 20s, and we had forgotten that we do that. You know, that's the largest regional park system, I think, in the world. It's the one they all come to right after they go to the National Park Service to figure out how they're going to plan parks. You all did that. Well, you've done so much more, but a lot of those things you're going to hear when I do the regular talk. But now, let's magnify it, because you're also doing all this international stuff, some of which will be in the regular talk. But you know, you're building water filtration systems in Peru. You've given support to so many of the governor's projects. You supported Kenya Smiles, and you actually housed all the leaders of the dental trade in Kenya here while they learned and got experience in new equipment. They went back, they transformed dental care in Kenya. Now there are 4 other African countries wanting to model what Kenya did. The eye clinics that Bob Sorensen has done all these years, and how many people has it affected? We've had individual members do dramatic stuff. Your current president actually was the key person in bringing Mediators Beyond Borders into Rotary. He mounted that booth at Brazil. Other Rotarians of the club helped him. They recruited 100 mediators for international and local conflicts. And of course now Mediators Beyond Borders is a regular part of what Rotary does as an affiliated agency. We've done similar things that I can go on and on. The key thing is you travel up and down Northern California. Everywhere we go, you can't find a school without a Rotary imprint on it. We may have built the playground or fixed up the fields, or we created the computer center. We provided the major assistance to the teachers that are often there in the school. We raise money for them. We help provide them one of the best leadership training programs a high school has in Interact. In many of these areas, the principal will rave that it's the key to making that school work. In the parks areas, we've often built the playgrounds, we built the parks, we created, even bought the land for the parks in some of the areas. We're still creating trails for the people living in the Mount Shasta mountain areas with those Rotary clubs, both for locals, but also for the tourist trade that's a key part of their economy. The clubs in Reading are still creating trails in their mountain areas and clearing up the streams. The suburban clubs recently created the Iron Horse Trail, which links each of the suburban towns so you can travel between them by bike or by foot, and in turn go from that town up to the regional park system. All that work just as you did with the parks I named earlier for this club. We also affected the cultural institutions of the town. You've helped fix up the Berkeley Ballet Company and a range of the other smaller nonprofits in town, gave the money to the library system. Other communities, they actually rebuilt the Opera House. They rebuilt and created the theaters where the major community events are sponsored. Rotary often creates the community events that bring the whole town together, a role you play with the Kite Festival to a large extent. But we do so much more than that. When Contra Costa County realized that it couldn't afford to keep going the county hospitals, that were the major source of medical aid to the uninsured, they turned to Rotary and said, would you create RotaCare? And this district ended up helping create 3 RotaCare clinics. Concord, Pittsburgh, and the last was Richmond. We all got to help on that Richmond one. It was one of the key things I had the privilege of trying to help. And the first night it was open, it saved 2 lives. Peter's giving me the bit, and I said, you said you saved a life, that's what you're really saying. He said, well, we doctors don't want to brag that way, but yeah, I guess we did. It's pretty impactful. Each of them are serving 1,000 patients a year. When Gorbachev and Reagan negotiated the thaw in the Cold War, they needed acts of friendship to bring those long adversarial countries together. Our district was one of the ones that responded. Heart surgeons in our district knew that Russia had led the world in modern heart surgery until the revolution, and then even frozen out of access to the modern science. They recruited heart surgeons from across the U.S. to go to St. Petersburg to train the heart doctors there in doing modern heart surgery. In turn, Rotarians back in the US used the foundation, negotiated with the manufacturers, provided heart-lung machines to St. Petersburg to create the first modern heart clinic. And each year thereafter, the other cities in Russia sent their surgeons to St. Petersburg to be taught by the St. Petersburg surgeons on how to do it, with Rotarian doctors looking over their shoulders as they did in medical school. 20 years later, Russia paid for the presidents of those Rotary clubs and for those Rotarian doctors to come back to celebrate. This is one of the key friendship projects over the first 20 years. So I said you could raise your hand when you heard Rotary projects from this club. Where were your hands? That was the heart project led by this club. You know, you recognize Pate and all that. We do similar things. This district actually launched the first ever international symposium with long-run effects on Agent Orange. You can raise your hands again on this one, by the way. We videotaped it so that we used for public education nationally. People came in from Vietnam, from all over the U.S. Ed Church, I think, helped throw a reception for it at the time, and then the new Brower Center, what became the Brower Center, had two impacts. Yes, the Rotary Foundation funded the first cleanup of the river in Vietnam of Agent Orange contamination. They did it straight out of Evanston without going through all of the usual proposals and so on. But another bigger impact, because the videos that we did were shown across the U.S. by those who worked on these issues, particularly in defense of American veterans. Because Congress had been in denial that Agent Orange had genetic impacts on those soldiers and on their children and their grandchildren. A year later, Congress dramatically increased medical and social aid going to American veterans and their extended families. And the East Coast media credited the Agent Orange Symposium with launching that move. Well, once again, your district can make some major things happen in the U.S. Veterans policy, not merely in Vietnam. And you know, we're still creating friendship. The Chinese delegations insist one of the greatest acts of friendship they experienced in the U.S. is this district creating a Rotary experience for them when they go to a ranch, they go to a farm, they go to a jelly bean factory, they go to a winery. They bring their family and their spouses with them. There's not a similar act of friendship elsewhere. And of course you all recognize that. That's the annual Ag Tour that Mary Alice Rathbun leads, as we try and build new bridges to China to guard the next couple centuries. So be proud of your district. And I could go on and on and on with more projects that weren't uniquely Berkeley Rotary, but I thought I'd give you some special talent. So what are these major themes? The centennial. And your board heard about and generated some 30 projects by the time the board meeting was over. We've asked every club to come and brag at the conference. Berkeley will get some special moments in the sun, because it's our centennial for the district, because the district is as old as its oldest club. This is the oldest club. We're 100 years old, so is the district. You currently can find on the website those projects of each club in the district that they're most proud of. And our club list is pretty long. I think you'll find it pretty interesting to go check through those. But come be part of that celebration and join Rotaract and Interact as we do it. Second major theme of the year is youth programs. So Rotary International used to maintain only 1% of interactors become Rotarians, 5% of Rotaractors become Rotarians. And they discovered something in a big national survey, international surveys. They asked Rotaractors Youth Exchange 8-9 years later, after they had finished the Rotary Connection, would you join Rotary? 65% said they would if they were only asked. Rotary doesn't know where they are. We've never tracked them over time. But if you find one that's on the street one day and discover they have that experience, ask them to come to the Rotary Club. They're a pretty high probability prospect. Remember that, Rotaractors, for whatever number of years hence that may be. But that's not why we did the youth thing. We did the youth thing because when no one was looking, our youth programs in Rotary have grown faster than Scouting, 4-H, you name it. 10 years ago, we had 400 to 500 total in all those Rotary youth programs. Interact, Rotaract, the camps, Youth Exchange, and the scholarships we give out. When we did the count 2 years ago, it was 5,000. It's grown by leaps and bounds every year, and it's gotten even bigger since we last did that measurement. So the goal was, how do we serve them better? And hopefully, we make it something that maybe one day they will aspire to be Rotarians and join the movement. So we actually asked them. We asked a lot of the Rotaractors at Callan and Davis, who had been past Interact presidents, and we asked the Interact Council several different times. They gave us a couple pieces of advice, many of which this club pioneered for the whole district and knowing how to do. First, they want to work side by side with Rotarians and actually doing service. They don't mind helping out on the fundraisers and the rest, but if they really are community service events like the Kite Festival, remind them of that. Because it's not just fundraising, it's a service event that may make money if it's planned well. They want to know more about what the Rotary Sponsor Club does and what Rotary does. And I'd be interested to learn from the Rotaractors later how many of those large projects you actually knew about before I just mentioned today. It's hard. How do you make that happen? We do that pretty well in our club with Rotaract, and I think we probably do with Interact. Many clubs never bring up what the Rotary Club does. And so it turns out the Interact clubs, some areas don't even know they're affiliated with Rotary. And that's one of the reasons we changed this beginning 3 years ago as a major effort to create that stronger linkage. They wanted more mentoring. This was Interact as well as Rotaract. And of course, we've been offering mentoring to Rotaract now for quite a few years. The big surprise to us came from Interact. And that's a little bit less relevant here because Interact Club has gone up, down, I think it's now back again. But the Interactors asked, you honored us, why don't you ask our parents to consider becoming Rotarians? My mother ran a business, my father was an engineer or a lawyer. We got our values about Rotary, we got them from our parents, and Rotary was merely accentuating that. Why not invite them? And you may remember I did the interviews of 6 of our Interactors way back when I was a newspaper editor. Every one of them had 2 parents, each of them was professional or running a business. They emphatically were Rotary prospects. No club normally has approached them. Rotarians at Workday this year says, find an event, work side by side, but invite the parents to come learn about Rotary. Don't go after them as prospects yet. But I will tell you the first club that did it, San Ramon Valley, had 15 parents come. 3 of them signed up to join that night. 2 more are prospects. It's probably the biggest gold mine of prospects to expand work we can actually do in Rotary by reaching out to the parents of many of our youth. So, Rotaractors, don't worry, your parents live far away, we're not going to be going after them, but hopefully with Interactors, that will potentially happen. Third, this is the anniversary of the Rotary Foundation. So, 2 years ago, the Rotary Foundation was rated as the 5th most effective foundation in the world by an independent body. Most effective. Definition of effective, having impact that was sustained over time. Whoa! We managed to do that with the Rotary Foundation. I mentioned inducting Joan all the kind of areas we work in, so I won't repeat those. We've always been ranked among the most efficient foundations. We spend very little money to raise money. Hey, we're volunteers. We take it out of our pocket, we give it to Rotary. They don't have to spend money getting it. We spend very little money administering the Rotary Foundation programs. We're volunteers. We do it. So we knew we were going to be among the most efficient. And again, we tied for the most efficient of all foundations in the recent survey by American Navigator, I think it's called, that rates foundations. But you know, all this work that Rotary has achieved, but we're a bunch of small clubs. We're still a small club. You know, we're only 100. There are clubs 400, 500. That's chicken feed. That's small in the larger viewpoint of the world. There are tens of thousands and probably 100,000 foundations or more. How do we end up creating the 5th most effective and tied for the most efficient? It's pretty amazing. So my usual statement is, of course, Rotary would always like more money. I mentioned earlier, we don't have enough money for all the projects that our clubs want to do. When your spouse has an anniversary ending in 0, you're usually expected to give a bigger gift than an anniversary ending in 9 or an anniversary ending in 1. So the grand old man, the grand old lady, whatever you want to call the Rotary Foundation, has got a 100th birthday. It's a 00. It's a year to step up your gift. And as Maxime said, if you're not getting something and being part of both our local endowment of the Rotary Foundation, do it. You want some skin in the game of all the stuff the Rotary Foundation achieves. And of course, our biggest signature project is Polio Plus. So, the beginning of this year, both the World Health Organization and the Center for Communicable Disease each independently said they expected 2016 would see the last new case of the wild polio virus.
Wow.
Remember we're that close, and they move the fingers closer? We're here. Rotary hedged its bets. We're saying it'll happen in 2016-17, Maxime's year. But, you know, we had 3 months where we've had no cases in Afghanistan twice during the current calendar year. We almost had a 3-month period when we had no cases in Pakistan, and then one occurred. It's pretty astounding. We're down, last count I looked was 32 cases active during the year. We had an outbreak in Nigeria of 3 cases. They've had 1 or 2 more since. They've had 2 press conferences where the World Health Organization said we've got it under control. We're used to outbreaks, someone crosses a border, comes out, we have vaccination strategies and continue. They still think they've got Nigeria controlled, but the 3-year count you've got to do to have no new polio cases has to begin again. But the Rotary International Convention, which is again in the US this coming June, is basically celebrating what they believe the start, the early count of the 3 years for declaring polio defeated. You know, do we quite make it? Everything's still on track. That's the amazing thing, but that will happen. This is the 2nd greatest public health victory in the history of humankind. We beat smallpox, now we're about to beat polio? These are killers of millions of people. As Bill Gates says, the war on polio doesn't start without Rotary, and it doesn't end without Rotary. So how do we make this breakthrough in Pakistan and Afghanistan that looks so problematic? 2-3 years ago, our district was sending a group of folks to vaccinate in Pakistan. Ashraf, Preston Staley were among those who were going to go on this. Got really scary because of all the stuff that was being threatened. 2 weeks before we were to fly off, it was canceled by Pakistan because they said it was too dangerous. And indeed, the week we were to be there, they murdered 5 vaccinators. And over the next month and a half, they murdered 10 more. People say, you can't beat polio. You can't beat polio until you can beat the Taliban first. Yet somehow we're on the verge. How did that happen? And that's a story Rotary hasn't really told. If you read the Rotarian magazine, it said Islamic leaders began blessing vaccination. And that's true, they did. But you know, they've been blessing it for really quite a few years, and we still weren't having those breakthroughs. What the papers didn't report is every one of those murdered vaccinators were women. They were not merely doing this vaccination, they were defying the Taliban and the role of women. And something amazing happened. Women started pouring out to take the low-paid, dangerous, high-risk roles of being vaccinators in numbers they had never seen before. They weren't going to let the Taliban tell them they couldn't protect their children or their grandchildren. And the women who are Rotarians do what Rotarians know how to do so well. They and their spouses who are in Rotary helped mobilize the equivalent of local, county, state, federal government in Pakistan. And Pakistan dramatically increased the amount of military aid that it was using to protect the vaccinators and the amount of monies it was using for vaccination. Indeed, those killed immediately following started being policemen, army officers rather than vaccinators. But it made the difference. The numbers fell dramatically. We're almost at victory in that war, and you've been working on it a long time. What a triumph for public health that's being achieved. So what's this stuff about why people come and why people stay? I may go a few minutes over. So about 10 years ago, we did a lot of research and found that people came and they stayed for the same reasons. One, they wanted to have local community impact. And they wanted to have the fellowship, the community, the bondedness, the fun that comes when we're all together. And they were all in the low 20%. International was 12%. But we said, you know, local first, international second. Then in a whole new round of tens of thousands. And at Seoul, Korea, they basically announced, guess what? The question this time is, what do Rotarians most want from their clubs they can't get? And the answer was more international service opportunities. There was a tanker soul in the back row who got up and challenged the RI director and said, this contradicts all the stuff we did our training on and so on. What the RI director answered me was to say the following. Our clubs know how to have major local community impact. They know how to provide fellowship and community. That's why people come, why they stay. Most clubs do a lot of local and a good bit of international as well. And this club does a lot of both. There are some clubs, and they're still in the district, who don't believe the international is a major emphasis. They left out the appetizer, the dessert, the spices that make the meal really work, and also make it a Rotary meal, because that's what's absolutely unique about Rotary. So the issue is, what is it that gives rise to those special moments that help people want to stay and be part of Rotary? Cliff Document is what the person who gave the thought for the day, Max, says it's that minute you realize you're not just a member of a Rotary club, you're a member of you're a Rotarian, a member of movement. At PETS, our President-elect training for those from out of town, we call it the aha moments that people get. I think there are 4 things that give rise to those moments in Rotary. One, we start recognizing that we can do something much bigger in Rotary than we could do by ourselves, with our family, with our church, our town. Rotary gives us that empowerment to make more things happen. Second, and this relates to a lot of what was said earlier, Rotary is pretty unique in modern urban society and in developed countries around the world. We leave our differences at the doorstep and find ways to work together to make things happen. The difference of political party, of ideology, of religion, of culture, of age, of gender, of race. It's pretty amazing we do that. What I was saying prior to the election is Rotary was going to need us more than ever the day after the election. Because I was saying 49.9% of the American public is going to be deeply disappointed. I did not know it was going to be 50% plus. But you know, Rotary is where we still get to work side by side and understand the Hillaryites, the Trumpites, and the none of the aboves. We can make that kind of work happen in Rotary. So we're going to come back together, we're going to heal in Rotary. We're going to continue doing the local community work. We're going to reach out to our region and do the national work, and we're going to reach out internationally. Because Rotary is where we create the international partnership, and no political party ideology can stop us from doing that. We come together across those lines of ideology. The other thing I think is the gift of Rotary is we know that we create partnerships. Partnerships among clubs, and the board and I discussed that. Partnerships between businesses, between business and government, between business, government, education, nonprofits, what have you. That's a distinct political philosophy as well as it is a major reality of how Rotary does its business. And it's pretty special. But the fourth thing I think has to do with something called character. David Brooks, the conservative New York Times columnist, wrote a best-selling book 2 years ago called The Road to Character. And in it he said there are two types of character. There's resume character. We all know about that. The skills we've had, the jobs we've had, the number of people we've managed, what we've achieved in those jobs. Absolutely key to the incomes we make. The ability to support our families, put the kids through college, provide for our old age, do our philanthropy. And that's the important. The other kind of character he decided, mentioned, was what he called eulogy character. What do they say about you as they're about to bury you? That must be an old person's concern. When I've used this at Rotary talks and when I've done it in our talks, they absolutely understand. They see that in their family. They're thinking about their future. Same way Rotarians do. Well, Brooks' observation, and it's also mine, is that when you're at a funeral, they don't talk about your resume unless they don't have anything else to say about you. They talk about the values you passed on to your kids and the other people you worked and associated with. They talk about whom did you love and who loved you back. They talk about what good did you do for the people you knew and worked with, but what good did you do to all those people you may never have known or seen? What's the legacy your life is leading? I believe Rotary keeps us on the track to creating the kind of character and legacy that we're striving to do. It's so easy to get diverted by sickness, by jobs, by family, by moves. But Rotary, we come back in, we're given a new service project, we're getting people who cheer us on and say, we're with you all the way, we're going to support you. It keeps us on that path of character building that we're all seeking for our life. It's a gift of Rotary. I want to thank this club for being the great Berkeley Rotary Club. I want to thank you for being part of feisty and I think really impactful District 5160. I want to thank you for having chosen to join and stay in the Rotary movement. We have changed our communities and improved them. We have changed the world. We're going to continue to improve our communities. We're going to continue to change the world. And we will help secure peace. Let's just keep up the work. Thank you.
Governor, and here to re-inspire our club time after time.